All right, so this special chapter goes along with DVD703, the rootless chords, or piano chords part 3, rootless chord voicings. Two of my students, Ron and also Spanfan, I believe Nicole is her name. Anyway, Spanfan and Ron both brought my attention to a problem, a mistake that I made in the music. Yep, I know I make mistakes too. I was talking about the two different forms of the rootless chord voicing. So we have C major 7, there's your A form and your B form. I believe I call that A and B. It really doesn't matter, you know, you should call that A and call that B. Basically, it's your two different forms. And in the right hand, I had a G, a D, and a G, or an A, D, and a G. So, all right, and then, but however, in the chapter, I believe it was all forms, A and B forms, hands together, something like that. I was talking about how you can use quartals in the right hand, okay? So you can build them on the 3rd, you can build them on the 9th, okay? And there was some confusion as to which, you know, what's right, what I had written in the music or using quartals. The reality is, and the honest answer is, both are absolutely right. It really depends on what the sound is that you're trying to go for. So let's break this down a little bit. When we have this rootless chord voicing, all right, first of all, the rootless chord voicing is really only going to work if you're playing with a bass player or if you're going to be hitting that bass note, okay? Because if you go through and you're just playing rootless chord voicings all of the time, okay, in your playing, it's going to sound a little bit, probably a little thin and a little bit ambiguous because the root motion is not there. Okay? And that's not to say you can never play rootless chord voicings when playing solo piano. You most certainly can. But you want to put a little bit of root motion in there so the ear knows what the tonality is and what the harmony is. So anyway, if I have this A form of my rootless chord voicing of C major 7, I can create a, well basically if I have this in the left hand, it's like, okay, well now what do I do in my right hand? I mean, I'm just gonna like, you know, sit on my hand or something? No, I want to do something. So the first thing you could do is just play octaves. Well, what notes are gonna work as octaves? Well, any of the notes on the chord. The 5th, the 7th, the 3rd. You can also put in your available tensions, your 9, your 6, right? These are all gonna work quite nicely. What's not gonna work? Well, you know, F is probably not going to work. Obviously, any of the black notes won't work on a C major chord down here, okay? Yes, you could do C, but the problem is C is kind of like, bleh, you know, why do the root, especially if the bass player is going to be doing the root? So you probably end up staying away from C, right? But it's not a terrible choice. So if you have that octave, I was putting in that D in there. Well, why would I put the D in there? Just to add a little bit more color to it. Did it have to be D? No, it could have been any other note. I could have done something like this, you know, where I have the G and the A, the D, and then maybe the A up there. I'm just choosing notes from that chord. And when I think about notes from the chord, I start with the chord tones, right? But like I said, I can kind of keep C out of it if I want. And then I add in my available tensions, which would be 9 and 6. Okay? And then, you know, you could start to add in sharp 11 if you wanted to, but we don't have to, like, take it outside too much. So if we say, all right, well, we have our 5th and we have our 5th, well, let me add the 9th in there. I could have easily just done the 3rd there. I could have done the root there. Okay? Now, when I move up to this B form, why did I go up to A? Well, these thumbs are going to, like, start to conflict here, aren't they? So I just moved up, so that my thumb wasn't conflicting with that G, trying to, like, you know, squeeze in for that space. Now let's talk about quartals. Quartals are a little bit different. You can build that quartal off of the 6th like that, okay? You can build it off of the 3rd. You can build it off of the 9th, right? So now let's go through each one. Let's go through each chord tone and available tension and see if we could build the quartal off of there. If we built it off of the root, yikes. There's your sus4 and your flat 7. That's not going to work. Building off to the 9th, yeah, it's perfect. In fact, I can even bring that down here and just get rid of the 9th in my left hand and replace it here in my right hand, okay, with that quartal. I could build it off of the 3rd, okay. Well, the building off the 9th gives me 9, my 5th, and my root. Building off to the 3rd gives me my 3rd, my 13th, and my 9th, okay. I can add the 9th back in there if I wanted to. Get some nice voicing. Obviously, not going to work building off of the 4, okay? Building off the 5, why won't building off the 5th work all that well? Look at what's up top there. that 11th, all right, that 4th. That's not going to work. But if you did something like that, might work with the sharp 11, or doing something like that, which you just move it to the E. But of course, this is not strict quartals now. Building off of the 13th or building off of the 6th, as we should call it on a major chord, right? That would work nicely because that's 6, that's 9, that's 5. And then building off of the 7th works quite nicely as well. Because there you have, which chord? Your major 7th, your major 3rd, and your 6th. Now you can also use that other B form. Okay? So what you want to start to wrap your mind around is not so much, oh, well, which quartals can I use and, you know, what notes? It's more thinking, okay, what are my chord tones? I know root, 3rd, 5th, and 7th, okay? Start to know what those chord tones are. If I'm doing G major 7, boom, G, B, D, F sharp. I know G, B, D, F sharp. There are my 4 chord tones for a major 7 chord. Now, what are my available tensions? Immediately, 9. 9 works great. That's A. The 6th also works well, okay, which is E, okay? You could play the E along with the major 7th. And then the sharp 11, which in this case would be C sharp, works, but obviously sharp 11 adds a little bit more tension than the 9th and the 6th. Okay? So right there, there's a nice, there's a nice voicing right there. But then you start to say, okay, well now I want to change this. I want to do just the root, the 3rd, and the 7th, and the left hand. Okay, so I got root 3, 7 in there. That gives me my root, and that gives me my guide tones. That gives me my important chord tones, because it defines what that chord is. It defines it as being major. Because if I didn't have the 3rd in there, I wouldn't know if it's major or minor. If I didn't have the 7th in there, I wouldn't know if it's a major chord or a dominant chord. So now I know it's a major 7th chord. Then I could say, all right, well, let me throw in my 9th. Let me spread it out by an interval of a 4th. Okay, let me go up to my 5th there. Okay, another 4th. Let me go up to that G. All right, yeah, that works. Okay. Now, what if the melody note was B? Okay, I'm doing something like that. All right, well, I can do that. Okay, there's my root, my 3rd, and my 7th. Okay. In fact, let's bring it down here, because another thing that happens is like, oh man, it's kind of jammed together. So what do? All right, so let's bring this down here. I'll do my root and 7 down here. Let me add the 3rd. Okay, but now what else can I add in here? Well, obviously, if I start trying to come down here, I'm kind of stretching a lot. Maybe I can, get the 9th crushed in there, but, we don't have to go crazy like that. So, what if I go up a 4th and get my 13, my 6th rather. Okay, there you go, that sounds pretty darn good right there. Would I want to add anything else? I don't know. Maybe I could try throwing in my 5th in the left hand. Of course, you're going to be careful that, it starts to get a little too low. Like the 3rd, it sounds muddy there. But the 5th, it sounds okay. But now you also got to check, is that 3rd too low? Yeah, it sounds all right. Okay, so there you go. Now I have a nice G major 7 chord that's been spread out. If I want to do that rootless chord voicing, I could do that. There's that rootless chord voicing on G. The A version, same right hand. I could change the right hand, do the 5th, do the root, and the 3rd. Okay? Problem with the root on a major 7 chord is, if you have the major 7th going on, see? Okay? You can also do things like this. Move the major 7th down to the 6th, and then play the major 7th up here. Or flip. That sounds nice as well. There's a nice sounding chord right there, G major 7.